Welcome to Hub TV, the Resilience channel broadcasting from Eastern Africa. Today, we go straight to the thorny question of South Sudan. In our series on the elasticity of democracy, the next generation of researchers will pose the hard questions. Question 1. Are we asking the right questions regarding this crisis? And are the questions we are asking leading us to a solution, or are they causing confusion? Question 2. Is Salva Kiir underestimated? Is he politically smarter than we have assumed? Does understanding him take us closer to resolving the South Sudan crisis? Has the opposition misread him and hence misstepped their attempt at peace? We have no solutions yet, but as young African scholars, we believe questions tell us more than answers do. We also posit a hypothesis regarding the 4 stages of regime consolidation by Salva Kiir.
Was there a coup in South Sudan in December 2013? And if there was one, who was the coup maker? Was it Riek Machar, as is claimed by Salva Kiir, or was it Salva Kiir himself who was the coup maker? Did Salva Kiir cleverly stage a coup against himself and then blame it on Riek Machar and the SPLM High Command? Or was this a coup by Salva Kiir against his SPLM colleagues? And why was this the original sin? Or was it actually the initial but necessary step to regime forming?
There was no coup in 2013. It was exactly this process you have just raised. We in the party, and particularly those of us who were detained in 2013, were the real people who raised this question you have raised now. That now we are now an independent country, we have to follow suit of our African brothers, particularly countries like Kenya, who have survived the test for democracy. There are still difficulties, but we ought to start. And we said we cannot start democracy in the country, we have to start it in the party, in the SPLM. So we start questioning the constitution. First of all, that does not give the leader term limit. So we started proposing, Salva, you can be the chairman for 10 years, five years, cut, and finish. In fact, we even told him, you have already spent your 10 years. So open up the party for competition.
I would say the historical mistrust has definitely contributed to the current crisis. In a way, the split of the SPLM in 1991, it's being hunted and being resurfaced. And we see that from the conflict that happened in December 2013. That was the focus point. That issue of the same party splitting and rejoining itself again has not been dealt with in a more cohesive way. So it's a bitter past that has resurfaced. I would say this is the main issue.
If the December 2013 coup was the first step in regime consolidation, how was the second step of regime norming executed? What were the push factors that led to this stage? Can we hypothesize 2 things? 1, that in the absence of an external aggressor from Khartoum, the SPLM brigade had no option but to cannibalize itself, and that this process increasingly became tribal. Number 2, that because of the protracted war, a civic culture is yet to emerge in South Sudan. As a result, all political problems have military solutions.
Considering, a command that was a military structure and having a general telling you one thing to do one thing, the analysis that you take it as let's say a civilian now, that we move from the military into a civilian life, you take it still as a command from a general rather than from a leadership, I feel like this is a huge problem within the South Sudanese context, the SPLM. And if we don't change it, South Sudan will go through a more struggle than what's going through now.
What is happening now between the Nuer and the Dinka, I don't really think it's an ethnic conflict. It is a struggle for power between individuals who then turn to their communities, using their communities in order to achieve their desires or their ambitions. Yes, there have been some inter-tribal wars, but which are totally rudimental. Not that they have never been amplified to this level of confrontation, using even modern machine guns. Who can acquire this in the countryside?
Was there a second coup in 2015? And was the coup executed by collapsing the peace deal that made Riek Machar the first vice president? Was this event the beginning of the third phase of regime consolidation? Was it the regime norming stage? Can we hypothesize two things here? The first is that South Sudan is high on militarization and low on politicization. And to return to a previous question of civic culture, the country is high on martial competence and low on civic competence. If so, peace deals must be crafted with this completely in mind. The second hypothesis is that the country experienced a process of demobilization without demilitarization. Is the storming phase driven by untenable Eurocentric models applied uncritically to an African situation? Are these models engineered to fail, like in the case of the DRC and the UN peacekeeping forces?
One key issue that should have been addressed adequately is the issue of transitional security arrangements. There's a very clear agreement which talked about the demilitarization of Juba, which never happened. And people assume that you take two protagonist forces in one town who cannot even look eye to eye, who yesterday killed one another, expect them to come. And even in the African culture, if you don't do a ritual, how do you expect these people to shake hands? That's really one key major problem that has sparked this conflict, the coexistence. This attempt to bring two protagonists in one city. We are probably one of the biggest armies in the region because everybody who participated in the war was not provided with an alternative source of livelihood. So everybody held into the guns, and therefore we end up having a huge army, a huge number of generals. There is a say now that South Sudan has the largest number of generals than Russia and China.
They should have had a situation whereby they would have had an effective DDR. Effective DDR would have meant putting into place reforms, agricultural reforms, get people. There was nothing else to do except sit around with your guns and I suppose wait for your leaders to come and either give you orders and also to feed you.
And now the final question. Are we using a misengineered route map to peace in South Sudan? Are the intellectuals in opposition mistaken in their application of Eurocentric solutions to a fragile African situation? Have these intellectuals been outsmarted by a man they dismiss as uneducated, unpolished, and a military man? And does the key to a lasting solution in South Sudan begin with a systematic dissecting of this man Salva Kiir? If we understand him, his methods, his schemes, and how he slithers around obstacles, will we prefer workable solutions to the crisis in South Sudan? Maybe if we understand the crisis as a struggle between peers, with one consolidating his regime and the others skirting around his efforts, we will be able to resolve this crisis faster.
These are two personalities who have been on top of the liberation struggle of South Sudan, but who undermine themselves in different ways. One is an intellectual, one is a military man.
I think the Southern Sudanese are perhaps the most resilient people in Africa, and we should have used their traditional methods and systems to have come up with the peace agreements that were not only at an international level recognized, but amongst themselves as a people.
According to Sun Tzu, know yourself, know your enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Can we hypothesize that Salva Kiir understands himself and understands his enemies very well? And can we reverse this with regards to his opponents, that they know themselves but hardly know their enemy? Is Salva Kiir using what Sun Tzu calls the Tao of paradox? This is taking control through confusion, attacking when the opponent is unprepared, and appear when least expected? When able, appear unable. When close, appear distant. When distant, appear close. When forceful, appear evasive. When proud, appear humble. When comfortable, appear to toil. And when attached, appear separated.